Hello and welcome to another Blender tutorial. I'm still a little bit sick, so please don't mind that. Um, Today what we're going to be talking about is dynamic wetness, I guess you would call it, or I guess dynamic paint. So what dynamic paint is exactly what it sounds like. You can paint in Blender, kind of. I'll show you what I mean. So right now I have dynamic paint on, I believe, the skirt and the body of the B2 model. I'm going to be using that one again just because I think it looks good. And I have an emitter over here that's emitting a couple of little kind of paint balls, and it will paint the model. And I have it set up right here where it will change the roughness depending on where it's been painted. So as you can see, this could be useful for if you have a model sort of like in a rainstorm. The individual raindrops will kind of change the wetness depending on where they hit. So let's say if the character had an umbrella, the top of the umbrella would get really wet. Character would stay mostly dry, except for maybe a few raindrops here and there. So this is how this could be kind of useful. Though I found another sort of reason you can use this, and I will show that a little bit later. So first of all, I kind of want to show you how you can set up this dynamic paint. So first of all, I want to turn off the dynamic paint for the brush and the dynamic paint for this canvas right here. So whatever's being painted on is the canvas, whatever is doing the painting is the brush. I assume that's usually pretty clear, but just want to say it. Turn on screencast keys because I always seem to forget to do that. Okay, so I'm going to be setting up a dynamic paint for the ground here. And it's going to be changing the roughness. I don't know why I closed the node editor because I'm going to be back in the node editor anyway. So here's the node settings for the ground. We'll need to know that in just a bit. So for the ground, what you're going to want to do is turn on dynamic paint, make sure it's a canvas, and add canvas. And normally this would be off, so I'm just going to turn it off. Most of these settings you can kind of keep the way they are. Anti-aliasing is, I believe aliasing is like hard edges that you get, and so it will kind of smooth those out. I'm going to keep it at vertex for now, just because that's the easiest. So everywhere where there's a vertex, it will create a sort of painted area, or paintable area. And we'll keep this at paint. I believe I made one about waves. So, like I said, dynamic paint is a pretty powerful tool. So you don't really need to change very many of these settings. You can change sort of like the amount of time the paint stays here. Initial color. Let's see, effects. So I guess you can change like, there's like little drips. So if there's a wall, you can have it drip down the wall. Dynamics. Okay, so that's basically just regular like baking stuff. So you can turn on one of these sort of paint things, these little maps, these DP maps. So I'm going to turn on the wet map, and I can actually rename this to just, oops, that's not what I meant to do. I believe I should be able to just name it wet. It doesn't look like it's working. Whatever, we'll keep it at DP wet map for now. And then we'll select our emitter that's just emitting these balls flying out. And we'll turn on dynamic paint for that as well, except this time we're going to use a brush. And since this is a particle emitter, normally with the ball you'd be able to just have mesh volume or mesh volume with proximity. But for this we're going to need particle system, and then we're going to select the particle system, which is pretty simple because I only have one here. The solid radius we're going to want to turn down, because if I go back to the beginning, you can see that it's creating some very big streaks. So there's turn that down all the way. Now I'll give it a more sort of realistic look, and now you can see that there's like individual droplets, which is kind of nice. There's no collisions on this model, which is why all the balls are just flying right through it. So let me just look. I don't believe there's anything else that we really need to mess with here. I believe paint waves right here, this is just or if you were to set this one to waves, which we're not going to, we're going to just keep it at paint. So I believe the actual paint part is done. Now we just need to set it up with the materials. And so I'm gonna I'm trying to think, oh yeah, okay, so we're gonna need a math. So the reason I'm adding the math node here is because when I add the attribute, which is this is where going to be the dp wet map is. So you just type in dp underscore wet map, not wetty map, wet map. There you go. And now this will have the wet map on it. And if I drag it into my roughness of my PBR shader, you could see it's kind of working. Though it's a little bit strange because now the entire floor is shiny and these little particles make, these wet, they're like making dry spots almost. So what I usually have is have this at 0.8. Oops, what did I do? Okay, so I have this at 0.8, and that's because I have my roughness already set to 0.8, so that's what the roughness looks like regularly. And then, or no, I want the top one set at 0.8, and then the bottom one will be subtract. So I want to subtract whatever this value gives me from 0.8, and basically the lower roughness, the sharper the color is, as you can see here. And so if I turn the roughness up to 8, it'll be nice and kind of diffused. And so the little paint drops will subtract it and make little shiny spots. As you can see, that's a very, very nice sort of look. Looks kind of realistic. If you're going to use vertex, it's best to have something sort of far away like this, because if it's up close, you can kind of see that it's sort of, you get these sharp kind of corners because it is only, these squares right here. So I could subdivide it again, but I'm afraid that I might start lagging the computer a little bit, especially since I'm recording. So I'm just going to go back, and these sort of paint spots kind of disappear pretty quickly. As you can see, there's only like 3 here, even though in the solid view you can see there's a bunch of them everywhere. Sorry about that. So that's pretty much all you need to do to set up a sort of dynamic paint roughness map. I can show you the kind of the node setup I have for this model, for the skirt at least. And I know this looks complex, but these are basically the different texture maps, because I wanted this here. If I look into the render real quick, you can see that there's a kind of skin on the actual on this on a certain UV map, and so I needed to have 4 different textures. So the diffuse texture, the normal map, the specular map, and this is just a texture where only the skin parts are colored in, so that I can differentiate between the PBR skin and the regular PBR. And the PBR skin, the only difference is I have subsurface scattering, so that I get nice sort of realistic looking skin. That's literally the only difference. So I can honestly hide all these. And this color ramp is just because the boots are way too shiny, so I just turned down the darkest value to a grayish value rather than black. So honestly, all this is just sort of the basic, sort of setup for the textures, and everything else right here. This right here is, actually, we don't even need to look at this. This was from something else. So it's just the wetness map going into a node group that looks like this. This divide also doesn't need to be here. It was for a test earlier. But basically, it takes my specular map and then just subtracts the wet map from it and just makes it shinier. And that's pretty much it. Uh, One last thing I wanted to show you was there's actually something way cooler than just dynamic wetness that you can do with this. And if I open up my second layer, you can see I have a wireframe of the skirt here. And if I go into rendered view, it should work. There we go. And I believe this is probably one of the coolest things that you can do with it. And if I can select the wireframe right here, you could see also a very simple node setup. It's also using the DP wet map. And basically, what it is there are two shaders here, an emission and a transparent, and it's being mixed with the factor of the wet map. So basically everywhere where the raindrops hit, it'll create these cool sort of blue glowing, what are they called? Wireframes. I'm sorry I'm forgetting words today. My brain's all scrambled because I'm a little bit sick. But I think that's it. And I believe I rendered out a few frames, not too many, but I rendered out a few frames. I only did the skirt. Can I stretch this out? And just pull this up here. I'm going to stretch this out so it fits on the screen. There we go. It's a little bit low quality and it's only a few frames, but this will kind of show. Obviously, you could turn down the rate at which the wet map sort of dissipates because, as you can see, these drops sort of dry up after a while. So you could change the amount, and then this would be good for a sort of hologram maybe. I've seen this in a couple of movies where, you know, the antagonist shoots at the protagonist, and then these wireframe sort of glowing spots appear because he's shooting at a hologram of the protagonist. So I just wanted to kind of show that off. I thought it was pretty cool the way it worked. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.